from America's finest city. This is Real Talk San Diego on ESPN 1700.
What's happening, gang? You are live back. This is the Secret Stash, and we tracking down some of the coolest local people around town. You guys look pretty cool today. You got the suave coat. We got full coat and tie over here. So either like I'm going to get hit from the mob right now, or we're going to have a good conversation about some tax and law stuff, right?
I think it's...
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, nods. I'll take the nods. And that's what we do every Tuesday between 10 and noon right here on ESPN Radio 1700 AM. And hopefully leaving us all a little better than how we found us. That's what we promise to do every week here in the Secret Stash. Real Talk Radio San Diego. In the studio live today, we're going to shift gears a little bit from one of divorce and stuff and kind of get back down into the weeds of... You got two parties on either side of any kind of, like business, conversation, transaction, whatever you want to call it. And if you're in that spot, you've noticed that there seems to be a couple themes that always seem to rise up like snakes in the grass consistently. And so if you can think of maybe the myriad of all the different 50 to 100 different things that can happen, there seems to be a couple. So we distilled it down to the four things that we see most often. And we got two expert local panelists in the house to kind of weave us through this. We got Kyle Yaege. Okay, and he's from Hickman Robinson LLP. Kyle, which for your fans, who are you? What do you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, Jesse. I am a business and real estate attorney. I've been doing it for about a decade, and I've been at Hickman Robinson a little over a year and a half now. But I've been doing real estate and business transactions and litigation since late 2006. Since late 2006,
and by the way, you can catch him offline right now at hickmanrobinsonlaw.com, or you can call me at 619-819-8383. And flanked to your right, Charles Williams. Now, Charles, you are actually another lawyer as well, but you actually work for a CPA firm.
Yes.
Right? So tell us a little more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Charles Williams, and thank you again for having us on. Whoa, I think I just knocked the mic.
You're good.
Okay. So the firm's called Friedman Brannen. We do a lot of specialization in estate and trust, international type stuff like that. Piggybacking on what he was talking about with different business deals and different parties, it definitely comes down to tax. It always comes down to tax when you're when you're at the last thing you're going to do. But, it's great to be here. Thank you.
Tax is the great scoreboard, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Always tells you exactly the truth about what everything was, how much lies that you've told yourself over the course of the previous 365 days. You can catch Charles and his firm over at friedmanbrannen.com, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's FRIEDMAN and then BRANNEN.com, 858-794-2800, if that's a little easier than to remember that. So, This concept, you guys, of the situations, I think, I know it's kind of hard to break it down into like a top four, but if I could, would you not agree that just basic misunderstandings of the contract is probably the one that flies up to the top most often? Yes or no?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So from your perspective, maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Sure. So what comes up a lot, we do a lot of litigation assistance with the attorneys, and a lot of times they'll come up with, two parties kind of just didn't talk at all, didn't communicate at all.
Well, that's what the contract's supposed to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then it comes down, this, we didn't discuss this, but I got my side, you got your side. When all you just need to do is get in a room together, hash it out, be all good.
Now, in the context of numbers and stuff, which is really more, I guess, where you would argue your firm has a say or a role in this, like how does that end up playing out where it's, I guess another way of saying it, oftentimes lawyers kind of get involved after the damage has been done, all too often. So if you could swim upstream a little bit, like how would you see that nipped in the bud for what you guys do over at Friedman Brannen?
Perfect. Clarity is the key when it comes down to numbers. And, if you're looking at, you don't know what the other side's doing, you don't know what's going on. If you could just see the numbers, okay, I see that, our income stream was really, the gross income of $1 million, not the 5 million or 10 million that I think that, that somebody else has been telling me. And I just use that in like a royalty setting. So, you get two people together, show them the numbers. Okay, we're good.
So, I'm just riffing out loud here, wouldn't that be something that would be sort of germane to the deal itself in the first place, though, as part of like the discovery of getting into a contract in the first place?
Fantastic. Actually,
yeah, I was going to say, it amazes me because a lot of the transactions that we get in, we come in when everything's falling apart,
right.
And people get caught up in where they expect to be, and they stop looking at the details of what actually needs to be done to get there. And so
is it like a hubris?
No. I think it's not a hubris. I think it's you get a little excited. People get excited about, I found somebody that's going to do this thing that's going to get me to where I'm going to go, and they don't bother to look into the details. They don't look under the hood. So we get transactions that people they try to take care of it themselves. They draft the forms themselves or go find a template somewhere online or whatever. And they think that they've got it covered, but they didn't actually think about the details of the transaction. They just put some really vague language in there and go, they're going to give me this.
Did I just hear you say that they tried to actually draft the contract themselves?
Surely you can't be serious.
Never happens. Never. Yeah, no, and they do it with all the best intentions. I mean, most of the time it's not about one person trying to screw another. It's just about they both are excited about getting what they think they're going to get out of the other side, and they don't want to get down in those details. They just want to get to tomorrow when they've actually got the thing that they're expecting.
Okay, so let's say premise then officially, up into the level of consciousness. Now, gentlemen, in each of your expertise, respectively, what can be done about this? So, let's head these off at the pass based on your experience.
Sure. Go ahead,
Charles.
You actually said something really great in the last segment that I liked that kind of explains what we're talking about now. It's the reptilian mindset.
Yeah.
You referred to the reptilian mindset, and
right.
It's fantastic. That's a great description of how people are thinking about, this is how this is going to work, this is how that's going to work. I mean, heading it off at the pass is perfect with communication.
Okay, so then how do you coach that then? So I mean, because is it not true, or I could be off on this, but are you involved when the contract is incepted, or do you guys typically get involved after the contract is already incepted and you're sorting through the details?
So we do both. We do transactional and litigation work, and so I kind of get to see both sides of it because of that. And answering your question that Charles took a crack at a minute ago, from my perspective, the thing that people need to do the most is actually stop and look at the details of what's going to happen. Don't try to use one broad sentence to say they're going to give me this end goal. You need to specify the things that need to be done and when they need to be done, so that you've got a map. Because that's what the contract is. It's a map.
That's. I'm going to give you a point for that one. That's good. It's a map.
Yeah,
I love that.
And so, I mean, whether you're drafting it between yourself and somebody else, or you've got attorneys working with you, you're going to go through the same process. The thing that we help people do is lay out that map in enough detail, with more complex transactions, and there's more steps, greater consequences if it goes wrong. Because we deal with those contracts all the time, we can help people answer those questions more thoroughly than they may be able to themselves. But for even your run-of-the-mill, I'm going to buy a used car transaction, you still need to specify, is there some sort of inspection that still needs to be done? Are they going to, execute? Who's paying for the transfer tax? All that stuff that is going to happen, but you just aren't going to think about it unless you stop and force yourself to think about each step of it.
I love that thought. So, and you guys are saying the same thing, which is nice. It's comforting to know that there's at least accord in this little courtroom here with the two lawyers. Charles, you mentioned the way to head that off is through clarity, and then more specifically, the detailing out. Which is, it's not the fun stuff. Would you agree with that, Kyle? It's like, you want to stay at the 30,000-foot level of, I want that thing, and it's no fun to go backwards then, okay, how does that thing actually get got? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so there's this, there's that, and then it's that devil in that level of articulating the details that helps prevent a misrepresentation, or as we said, a misunderstanding of the contract in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, you doing the real estate brokerage work that you do, I mean, you've got some car forms that have been thought out by attorneys. I mean, hours and hours and hours went into structuring that.
You mean lawsuit?
Well, a little both, but Carr has a few staff attorneys themselves to do that stuff, and they when by the time it gets to a broker and agent working on it, the details that you're working out are just a very few narrow issues, and the rest of it has been vetted very carefully by attorneys and, in certain cases, lawsuits.
Fair enough. So, gang, coming up, if you are in this space right now, and you might actually already be in a contract or something with some business or some tax-related principles that don't seem to be going well, you're going to want to stick around, because coming up, we're getting into number 2 of the 4 things, the 4 complex business situations made simple, in the studio with Kyle and Charles. Real Talk Radio. We'll be right back.